group. Welcome, and we'll hand it over to you, and then everyone gets to eat lunch and meet some new friends. So, I'll get you guys situated.
Thank you, Adam, and first of all, thank you everybody who still stay in the room until the last panel. I know that it's a long morning for all of you, but I'm sure that lunch is going to be served right after this panel. So thank you very much. So let's start with, I would like to introduce our panelists. Now next to me is Mr. Tuấn, and for those who in the room that are doing investment and business in Vietnam, they must know the Foreign Investment Agency, and Mr. Tuấn is the Deputy General Director of the Foreign Investment Agency, which is a unit under the Ministry of Planning and Investment that oversee the state management and promotions of foreign direct investment. So very pleasure to have you here, Tuấn. Next to Mr. Tuấn is Ramsey, who is the very popular face in AmCham, by the way, because Ramsey, besides he's the country director for Citibank in Vietnam, he's also a member of both board AmCham, both board of AmCham chapters, Ho Chi Minh City chapter and Hanoi chapters. So he's been very instrumental for the work of both chapters. And next to Ramsey is Mr. Quân from Corning, Vietnam. So Corning is a company that invests heavily in semiconductors and Quân Do is the country manager for Corning Vietnam, and Corning is a manufacturer involved in semiconductor, consumer electronics, life science, and automotive. Besides Vietnam, Corning has invested heavily in China, Korea, Taiwan, and India with very large gains. Next to Quân is Mr. Jeff Schebengardner. He's the managing director and head of government affairs and corporate responsibility for JP Morgan in Asia Pacific. As you know, that JP Morgan is multinational financial service company headquartered in New York, and it has offices in Vietnam, in both Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City for many years. Lastly, I would like to introduce Mr. Nguyen Hoang, the chairman of NNG Group. NNG Group is a developer of industrial parks, urban township. It's also involved a lot in renewable energies, as well as manufacturing semiconductor. Mr. Hoang here today also the chairman of Hanoi Supporting Industry Business Association. So let's start our panel. As usual, we would like to give the first speaker, Mr. Tuấn here. As you know, have you heard over the last few panels that in the context of economic slowdown and obviously it's impact the export to the U.S., FIA as a promoter for foreign investment in Vietnam, what are you planning to propose to the government in order to attract more foreign investment in Vietnam in this context?
Thank you, Mrs. Vitha, one of my special friends of mine. I should say that I should speak in English to save time because I know that all of you here are very hungry, and great honor and great thanks to all of you for your great patience until now. And come back to your question. As a role of foreign investment agency, I think that I should propose to the government that it's the right time to promote and to attract the foreign investment, because in the circumstance of the global and regional economy is slowing down, we will see a lot of risks and challenges, and beside that we will see a lot of opportunity. And that's why now we are changing the way of approaching of attracting foreign investment. Before that, Vietnamese government attract the foreign investment by all way, just to attract the foreign investment. But now, with the new national strategy for the foreign cooperation for the period from 2021 to 2030, we changed the approaching that we are trying to attract the foreign investment, but the high quality foreign investment. And we are some prioritized sector would like to attract foreign investment, including the innovation, high technology, semiconductor, etc., and pharmaceutical, healthcare services, high technology, agriculture. There are many prioritized sectors that Vietnamese government is aiming to attract foreign investment to make the great momentum to boost the economy. Now I think that Vietnam, as far as you may be aware, that Vietnam is now is proving that we are the safe and the attractive location for investment. We have many advantages for investment to find out the potential, such as the location, geographic location. We have the very safe and sustainable economic development. We have the human resources with not only the low cost, but also the we can provide the high skill human resources. And but beside that, we have the support very strongly from the government, and I think that is one of the very good advantage for Vietnam to attract the foreign investment. And now I know that there is a big worry for the foreign investment to look for the potential in Vietnam, because you see that there is a flow of restructuring the foreign investment. And many people tell me that Vietnam can get benefit from the trend China +1. But I think that it's a trend. It's not because of Vietnam, it's because of the global. Because foreign investors are looking for a safer location. That's why they are choosing Vietnam. And because Vietnam is proving that we are really safe with the sustainable and on legal framework. We are trying to create more and more open, transparent, and predictable business environment. And I think that is one of the most important things that foreign investors are waiting for. And it's one of the most important attractive points that make Vietnam to attract the foreign investors. Well, and I can share with you that to propose to Vietnamese government, I think that Vietnam had many advantages, but we are facing challenges as well. And the most important thing that Vietnamese government need to do, if we want to still continuously receiving the interest of the foreign investors, is how to continuously improve the business environment. Yep, and I can share with you that there are 3 pillars of Vietnamese government to boost the economic development. One is the legal framework. The first one is legal framework. We are trying to improve continuously the legal framework by many ways. For example, you can see the National Assembly have just amend a lot of important law, like law on investment, law on the price, law on the healthcare, and even law on custom. And we are trying to cut down the procedure to help the foreign investors to do the businesses easier and more effectively. And I think that what the Vietnamese government is doing is right, but we need to keep going to that right path to keep the belief of the foreign investor. That I think that is the most important thing for Vietnamese government if we really want to be the winner in this very strong and pressure competition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tuan. This is great. Yeah, I can't agree more with you that business here really expect improvement of the business environment. Now I want to hear from Ramses on what do you think about it and what the government should do in order to improve the business environment for companies or banks like the Citigroup in financial service sectors.
Yeah, thanks Ha, for those kind words and the kind introduction. I'd like to start by setting the context of FDI, which all of us know has been pretty strong in Vietnam, but it has been one of the really, really successful stories for the country. By way of statistics, if you look at the last 10 years and take FDI as a percentage of GDP, Vietnam has consistently been at a 5% kind of mark, which outperforms the rest of ASEAN. The rest of ASEAN is 2-3%. Of course, I'm not including Singapore. Singapore is off the charts at 20-25%. So they're not part of this kind of this conversation. But Vietnam has, the last decade, outperformed on FDI. And guess what? Now we have a phenomenal opportunity to kind of turbocharge it into a much higher level. And why do I say that? Because the profile of FDI we've got so far in Vietnam has been largely from North Asia. So the investors have been Japan, Korea, most recently Taiwan, Singapore, of course. And yes, there is, of course, investments from the US. But as a percentage, even this year, 2023, until September, 80% of the FDI is from these same countries, Singapore, Japan, Korea, Taiwan. Think about the Eurozone. Think about the US. They are the largest engines of the world economy. So the opportunity for Vietnam to get a fantastically larger amount of FDI is immense. And now is the time to act. Because Vietnam is now on the global map. Thanks to supply chain realignments, whatever the reasons might be, you can say it's geopolitics, you can say it's the pandemic, whatever the reasons are, Vietnam is now in the limelight and has the opportunity to turbocharge incremental FDI. So what should the government do? And what should the private sector do? I think there is a huge need to do roadshows. Now, roadshows, I'm a banker, so I talk about roadshows, right? But roadshows in the context of opening the eyes to the OECD world about the real value proposition that Vietnam is. Because I can tell you, because I've traveled 35 countries, the awareness levels of Vietnam are still pretty low. So we need to go not just to the European OECD countries, but also to the Midwest and to the East Coast and the West Coast and showcase the Vietnam story. If you did that, the amount of incremental FDI you're going to get in the next decade is going to be twice the amount that we're getting now. But the sense of urgency is important because competition is catching up. If you look at the last 12 months, Indonesia and Malaysia have upped their game. So they are attracting a whole lot of new investments. So the other angle which I want to bring in here is the talent pool. Multiple panelists have talked about human resources and talent and stuff. Recently, the World Bank came out with a report which talks about the maths and science capabilities of Vietnamese students, which outperforms Canada, UK, rest of ASEAN. And what that means, and by the way, that's not just kind of a few people at the margin. The vast majority of students in Vietnam outperform other countries. And that's because as a policy, this country has, and multiple governments have prioritized education. Now that pool, and I go back to Ambassador Napper's statements and various other people's statements, that the semiconductor sector now is a vast, huge opportunity, and Vietnam is well poised to benefit from that. It'll only happen if you do collaboration between academia, universities, and the private sector, which thankfully, we've already started seeing that happening. But we should replicate that not just in semiconductors, but also in healthcare and also in the financial sector. So, and the final point I'll make is, because I'm a banker, I should talk about the financial sector, right? So in the financial sector, the capital markets desperately need reform. Desperately need reform. Again, a bit of statistics. Market capitalization as a percent of GDP is something that is good to track. Vietnam is languishing at 50%. India is at 100%. Singapore is 129. Even Thailand is more than 100%. And we are underperforming in terms of equity capital markets. Why? Because we are still a frontier market. And frontier markets, by the way, the examples of other frontier markets in the world are Serbia, Morocco, Lebanon. I mean, if you think about that, Vietnam is not in that league. We've got to be an emerging market as of yesterday. So what does that require? It requires quick and immediate reform in the form of improving transparency in financial statements, in the form of allowing higher foreign ownership limits in specific sectors. You may not want to do it across the board, but at least in some specific sectors. In the form of allowing, taking away old practices like pre-funding for trading. Equity trading should not require pre-funding. The whole world goes around with financing for equity trades. So these are things that have been on the agenda for a while. And there was also talk about the fact that by 2025, we will become emerging markets status rather than frontier markets, but we are not there yet. So I think if we can, in a focused manner, address these issues, sky's the limit. Vietnam has tremendous potential to go to the next level.
Thank you, Ramsey. It's very informative comment as well as promising as well. Thank you, because you mentioned about semiconductor, sorry. You mentioned about that. I would like to ask like a representative from semiconductor manufacturing industry, Corning. Quan, could you share a little bit about what you expect from the government of Vietnam to do in order to attract more investor into semiconductor industry?
Thanks, Sarah, for your very kind introduction. So, first of all, my name is Quan, country manager for Corning in Vietnam. So most of people know Corning because of the product that you look at last before you go to sleep, and you look at first after you get up, right? Just a Gorilla Glass, and the front cover for the phone. But we have more than that. For semiconductor, we one of our major own company offer the super poor polysilicon for chip manufacturing. We also offer the equipment for lithography process, and our glass wafer also associated with the chip packaging process. I believe that many of you here are the MD or the country manager for a different big company, and in the corporate level we have a very standard process to make a decision where we should invest, and normally there's no overriding decision to say, okay, you need to invest in Vietnam, except the customer asks to do it. And just sharing that for us, right? So when we consider that kind of investment, normally there could be 30, 40 different criteria and different priority level as well. And back to her question, so we don't expect Vietnam will be the best for all 30, 40 criteria. We will not do it, and we never can achieve it. But I would like to pick up 2 points here. Number one is about FDA. That that was also what we recently, got more, sharing. And in last few months, we met several companies, and they all said that they want to have the product made in Vietnam, country of origin, and their sharing was. They would like to get more sharing and more update from authority. We know that today Vietnam has 16 FDA effective, but how can we do more education for the company, especially for semiconductor? So if the people involved in chip testing and packaging, and we know the material associated with that process from incoming to outgoing. So what does the FDA really offer? So we have 16 different FDA. So I recommend that we from policymaker, if we can do some kind of customization education for the company to know the benefit that our FDA can offer, that would be good as well. The second point is about labor resource. I think other panelists also discussed about it. So myself and I think other country manager here as well, we represent for the company in Vietnam, but we also represent for Vietnam in the company, and each of us as an ambassador for the Vietnam in the company. And when I show up the population pyramid of Vietnam, right? So we are no longer a pyramid, and that's one thing. Another thing is when we discover and we compare the demographic between Vietnam and many other countries, it was interesting that for blue collar labors, today we are quite competitive with other countries, but for engineer we are not really cheap compared with other countries. That's one thing. Another thing is many people talk about chip manufacturing, and most people talk about chip design, chip testing and assembly and packaging, right? But if Vietnam going forward go deeper into the supply chain of chip manufacturing, we may need more people involved in physics, material science. So we know that Vietnamese government now working on 5 years, 10 years plan for developing 50,000 engineers. So we also would like to recommend that the expertise that we need to develop for material science, physics need to be considered as well for long term. Not only 5 years, 10 years, but those deeper supply chain need to require a deeper expertise, and we need 20 years, 25 years talent development. Thank you.
Thank you, Quant. And next, because Ramsey has mentioned about the need to reform the capital market. And as part of that reform, I think the governments as well as the industry have been working hard on harmonizations with some international standards, regional as well as international standards. So I would like to hear from Jeff from JP Morgan on what you've seen of the process of harmonizations with the international standard in the financial service industry.
Sure, great. Well, thank you, Ha, and thanks for having me. It's good to be back in Vietnam. It's been a few years, and it feels good. There's a lot happening, you can tell. Harmonization for those of us in certainly government relations and public policy, it's our favorite topic because businesses love predictability, and the sort of standardization that regulations can provide, give foreign investors the kind of certainty that they're looking for when they come into a market. And a big part of our business as a financial institution is to support our clients as they come and invest in places like Vietnam. On the topic of harmonization, I would say there's some key areas when investors are coming into the market. Look at ESG regulations, for example, right? So Vietnam has already made a 2050 net zero commitment, which is great. That's something that companies see, and it looks familiar, and it's what much of the world is doing, which is wonderful. When you look a little more closely, there are some regulations coming up that include, for example, ESG taxonomy, so sort of definitions of what's green, what's not. Will that be, the world does not need multiple taxonomies, right? So to the extent that that kind of a thing can be standardized regionally or even globally, that's something that when the Prime Minister looks at this coming regulation, it's something that should be that should be taken into consideration. Similarly, if you look at data regulations, data localization, there's clearly efforts underway across Asia Pacific to introduce some quite strict data localization and cross-border data restrictions. To the extent that can be avoided, the free flow, of course, of data across borders is essential to investors who come into the market, and that includes the clients that we work with. Getting a little bit more specific into financial services regulations on harmonization, there's one area which is particularly important, and it's something that I think there's not a huge amount of awareness of, but it relates to sort of Vietnam's access to global capital markets. And I think other than supporting our clients who are investing into Vietnam, the other big piece of our business is helping Vietnam access the capital that it needs to develop. And I think, when you look at ESG and climate transition or infrastructure spending, this region needs trillions of dollars. And where do you get that kind of money? You can't raise it locally, you have to raise it globally. When you start doing cross-border financing like that, you get into, there's risk. There's foreign currency risk, interest rate risk, and the way you mitigate that and sort of lock in rates is in the derivatives market. Now, just to spare you too much detail here, there is a regulation called closeout netting, where when counterparties default, there's an easy and quick way to kind of wrap that up. It is probably the single most effective way to limit risk in credit markets, and Vietnam is one of the few non-netted markets in APAC. Right? China did it in 2022. Or 2020, I think. India did it in 2022. Indonesia is going through the process now. They're almost there. So I raise it because it's one of those things that for access to capital is going to be critical for Vietnam. And so we would just encourage the Vietnamese authorities to work with ISDA, which is the Securities and Derivatives Association, or talk to us, or talk to Ramsey, and we can help to sort of help figure out that process. On the topic of harmonization, things like the banking. There's a new banking restriction that's being proposed, which actually puts limits on credit lending. There is a international kind of standard that's set by the Basel Committee that limits how much exposure banks should have. Vietnam should not ideally fall below that, and that's what this proposal suggests. So that's something to sort of keep an eye on. Again, and then just a quick note on MSCI and the upgrade to emerging markets. There is a roadmap, and we've got the World Bank and the IMF and or IFC who have come and said, do these specific things. And I think that's so the playbook is there, and that's something we encourage the government to take a look at, and we're here to support the government to go through those steps. So let me stop there, and I'll hand it back to Ha. Thanks, Ha.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. I can agree more with you that there's many companies here, including many Vietnamese companies that have really some challenge to get access into the capital markets, and that's why I want to hear from our last panelist here, Mr. Huang from NG Group. I know that people talking a lot these days about semiconductors and as a potential and very promising industry in Vietnam. However, earlier today, we also heard from Mr. Dương of the Ministry of Industry and Trade that the window for the Vietnamese company to participate in the supply chains of international semiconductors manufacturers is very, very narrow. Now, as members or chairmen of the Vietnam Association on supporting industries in Vietnam, what do you think about that comment, and what are actually the challenges for those companies, for the Vietnamese company to participate in the semiconductor supply chains, please?
Vâng, xin cảm ơn bà Hà đã có cái dẫn hướng để chúng tôi có cái đóng góp cái nội dung ngày hôm nay. Đầu tiên thì giờ phút này thì cũng là rất là còn muộn rồi, thời gian còn ít, các bạn cũng đã mệt rồi. Thì tôi xin phép được trân trọng cảm ơn các bạn Mỹ và các bạn Việt Nam đã ngồi đến tận giờ phút này để nghe chúng tôi có những cái trao đổi. Về cái nội dung mà bà Hà vừa nói đấy, thì chúng tôi có một cái cảm nhận thế này. Chúng tôi là cộng đồng doanh nghiệp cái ngành công nghiệp hỗ trợ của Việt Nam, cũng như là cái công nghiệp hỗ trợ cho phát triển cho cái công nghệ cao. Thì hiện nay là chúng tôi ở Việt Nam có hàng nghìn các doanh nghiệp đã và đang sản xuất và đã tham gia vào cái chuỗi sản xuất toàn cầu của các cái tập đoàn đa quốc gia đã có mặt ở Việt Nam, cũng như là ở các quốc gia trên thế giới. Điều đó chứng tỏ rằng là các cộng đồng doanh nghiệp Việt Nam chúng tôi đã tham gia sâu rộng được vào cái chuỗi toàn cầu. Tuy nhiên thì cũng phải nói thật là chúng tôi có những cái khó khăn nhất định. Và cái khó khăn đó đấy thì một mặt thì doanh nghiệp Việt Nam tự phải chủ động giải quyết cái vấn đề. Cái việc thứ hai là chúng tôi có một cái điểm tựa của nhà nước Việt Nam trong cái việc mà đưa ra những cái cơ chế chính sách để phù hợp với cái thực tiễn đời sống sản xuất của doanh nghiệp. Thì đấy là cái việc thứ hai. Và cái việc thứ ba là chúng tôi rất mừng là trong cái dịp vừa qua, Tổng thống Mỹ đã sang Việt Nam và đã ký kết một cái hợp tác chiến lược, đối tác chiến lược toàn diện giữa Mỹ và Việt Nam với Tổng Bí thư Đảng Cộng sản Việt Nam của chúng tôi. Thì chúng tôi nhận định rằng là đây là một cơ hội vô cùng lớn để cho cộng đồng doanh nghiệp của Việt Nam nói chung và doanh nghiệp ngành công nghiệp hỗ trợ của Việt Nam nói riêng, cũng như công nghệ cao, có thể hợp tác, có thể phát triển cùng với các đối tác Mỹ của các bạn, để chúng tôi vươn lên một cái tầm cao mới trong cái việc phát triển kinh tế cũng như là xã hội ổn định của Việt Nam chúng tôi. Hôm qua thì chúng tôi có được ngồi ăn cơm với ngài Bộ trưởng Bộ Kế hoạch Đầu tư Nguyễn Chí Dũng để mừng cái ngày thành lập cái Trung tâm Đổi mới Sáng tạo Quốc gia của Việt Nam. Thì chúng tôi có cảm nhận rằng là đấy chính là một trong những cái hành động thiết thực, cụ thể của nhà nước và chính phủ Việt Nam trong cái việc cụ thể hóa cái chiến lược giữa Việt Nam và Mỹ vừa mới ký với nhau. Thì ngài Bộ trưởng có thông điệp rằng là trong cái thời gian tới đây đấy, để mà doanh nghiệp Việt Nam hợp tác được với các doanh nghiệp của Mỹ thì chắc chắn là chính phủ Việt Nam, nhà nước Việt Nam sẽ phải có được những cái cơ chế chính sách đặc biệt, chuyên sâu cho cái việc hợp tác giữa doanh nghiệp Mỹ và doanh nghiệp Việt Nam trên cái nền tảng mà các cái hiệp định kinh tế của chúng tôi đã ký với thế giới. Và chúng tôi rất cần là đối với chính phủ Mỹ, đối với các doanh nghiệp Mỹ, thì các bạn hãy gợi mở, hãy đưa ra cho chúng tôi một cái quy trình để hợp tác với nhau thế nào cho nó phù hợp với cái việc mà chúng ta đã hợp tác với nhau, hợp tác chiến lược, đối tác toàn diện với nhau. Thì hiện nay đấy thì cộng đồng doanh nghiệp của chúng tôi đang triển khai các cái sản xuất kinh doanh, đầu tư theo cái định hướng phát triển bền vững. Mà ở đây thì có ông Vinh là cái người mà cũng là một trong những người rất là tâm huyết và dẫn dắt chúng tôi trong cái việc mà thực hiện cái chiến lược 17 cái mục tiêu phát triển bền vững của Liên Hợp Quốc. Thì chúng tôi coi là đấy là cái giấy thông hành để cho các cái doanh nghiệp Việt Nam có thể tham gia được vào cái chuỗi sản xuất toàn cầu. Thì trong đó có Mỹ. Nhưng mà tuy nhiên ấy, thì đối với cái việc mà hợp tác cụ thể với các doanh nghiệp của Mỹ đấy, thì chúng tôi rất là mong muốn là các bạn đưa ra cho chúng tôi một cái chương trình hành động một cách cụ thể. Thì song hành với việc đó thì chính phủ Việt Nam cũng sẽ có được những cái chính sách cụ thể để cho các doanh nghiệp của Việt Nam chúng tôi và doanh nghiệp Mỹ của các bạn đầu tư tại Việt Nam sẽ thành công trong cái việc hợp tác. Thế còn cái việc chúng tôi đã làm gì thì báo cáo với quý vị là hiện nay doanh nghiệp Việt Nam chúng tôi đã có được những cái cơ sở hạ tầng rất tốt về các cái khu công nghiệp chuyên sâu cho cái ngành công nghiệp hỗ trợ, cũng như là chuẩn bị cho cái ngành công nghệ cao, trong đó có cái chip bán dẫn. Thế cái thứ hai là cái khu công nghiệp của chúng tôi nó không phải còn là những cái khu công nghiệp tiêu chuẩn cũ của cách đây 20-30 năm từ ngày chúng tôi mới đổi mới, mà hiện nay là chúng tôi phát triển các cái khu công nghiệp chuyên sâu theo cái hướng hệ sinh thái hoàn chỉnh, bao gồm cả các cái hạ tầng cơ sở về công nghiệp, rồi y tế, bệnh viện, trường học, nhà chuyên gia, nhà công nhân, để đảm bảo được gắn kết được cái 17 mục tiêu phát triển bền vững, và trong đó có cả cái bảo vệ môi trường, cả cái việc sử dụng năng lượng tái tạo như các quý vị đã trao đổi. Thì cái việc tiếp theo nữa là chúng tôi có gì? Là chúng tôi có những cái lao động, phải nói rằng là cái dân số trẻ và cái trình độ lao động của cái người Việt Nam là có thể bắt kịp và theo kịp được vào cái chuỗi sản xuất cung ứng cho các cái tập đoàn đa quốc gia. Ví dụ đơn cử như là Samsung, chúng tôi đã cung cấp hàng vạn lao động để có thể cùng với Samsung được phát triển được như ngày hôm nay đầu tư tại Việt Nam. Thì như vậy thì chúng tôi nghĩ rằng là đối với cái cơ hội của doanh nghiệp Việt Nam, đúng như bà Hà vừa nói đấy, ông Dương sáng nay ở Bộ Công Thương nói, thì chúng tôi nghĩ rằng là không phải là cái khe cửa hẹp, mà đây là cái cánh cửa rất rộng và lớn để cho doanh nghiệp của Việt Nam chúng tôi có thể tham gia được và hợp tác với các bạn Mỹ, cũng như tham gia được với cái chuỗi sản xuất toàn cầu. Thì chúng tôi nghĩ rằng là đã làm ăn, đầu tư kinh doanh thì ở đâu cũng khó khăn. Nếu mà không khó khăn thì không phải là đầu tư vào kinh doanh. Nhưng mà tuy nhiên ấy, thì cái cơ hội để cho cái việc mà các doanh nghiệp Mỹ hợp tác với doanh nghiệp Việt Nam trong thời điểm này, cũng như trong cái tương lai tới đây, thì đây là một cái cánh cửa rất lớn, cơ hội rất tốt để cho chúng ta cùng thắng, cùng phát triển. Xin cảm ơn quý vị.
Thank you, Mr. Huang. It's so very promising, and I hope that you're gonna take all those opportunities that opened for a Vietnamese company and U.S. company to work together. Now, there are many things that I think can discuss between financial service and semiconductor manufacturers. However, we are running out of time, and we have right there a time up side. So I would like just to spend a last couple of minutes for Mr. Tuấn from MPI to have some closing remark and respond to some of the idea or requests from the panelists. Please.
Thank Mrs. Ha, and once again, I would like to thank you all for great patience until now. And I wouldn't like to make conclusion, but I would like to share something as a role of the government agency. First of all, I'd thank you, Mr. Huang, for sharing about a very big event of Ministry of Planning and Investment, that the ceremony for inauguration of the National Innovation Center, and we Ministry of Planning and Investment and Vietnamese government also would like to develop the NIC to be one of the regional hub for the ecosystem of the innovation. And beside that, Ministry of Planning and Investment are proposing to the Prime Minister as well as the government to amend the Decree 94 to give the special incentive to the enterprises, not only foreign investment investors, but also domestic investors in terms of some prioritized sector, and to invest in that NIC, and it will be the great potential for all of us here. And secondly, referring to what we heard from the enterprises here, I think that is a very good input for us, because the more we listen, the better policy we can do. And for some disadvantages that my colleagues here show, I think that is a very good information for us. And we commit that as a role of the Vietnamese government, we are doing 3 pillars. One is the improvement of the legal framework. Second is the to improve the infrastructure, especially the big-scale infrastructure, connection infrastructure. And the last but not least one is the improving the human resources. And I think that with many policy ahead, you will see about what Vietnamese government is improving the disadvantages that enterprises are showing. And I highly appreciated what my colleagues, Rab Chanran, tell about not many people know about the information of Vietnam. And I remember a slogan of Vietnamese tourism about hidden charm. Yeah, and I think that you're right that Vietnam is good, Vietnam is attractive, but Vietnam cannot be the best one for investor if foreign investor don't know anything about Vietnam. So I think that we should show up our own beauty by for something going to some competition like Miss World to show up about the Vietnam beauty. And now I think that this forum will be one of the important and very special Miss World as well, to show about how is the open and transparent and attractive business environment of Vietnam, to show up to all of you here, the very potential investors. And finally, I would like to share my point of view that I don't agree that the previous idea that there is a narrow potential for cooperation between Vietnam and other countries, including US. I think that is the great potential, because come back to 30 years ago, when Vietnam and US has been a normal relation. You cannot imagine that until now we can get the remarkable achievement in terms of the cooperation, bilateral cooperation. And now with the new upgraded relation about the comprehensive strategic partnership, we can do much more. And I believe that there is a great potential for Vietnam and US to have the cooperation, not in terms of investment, but also in trading. And come back to my sentence when I share with my colleagues in the dinner with USABC. Yep. Please believe in us. Please see what we do and believe in us. Vietnamese government is always beside with the foreign investors, and your issue is our issue, and your prosperity is our prosperity. And once again, great thanks to all of you for being here until now, and wish all of you good health and good lunch. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tuan. Very nice concluding remark, and thank you for everybody to stay with us until now. Thank you, all the panelists. Thank you.
Well, thanks, everybody. Great job. And Mr. Tuan, thank you for that comment. I would rather be at Miss World than at this business summit, but that's just me. Just want to wrap it up with a few things, and yeah, I don't even know what it is, but I'm sure it's great. I want to thank people for coming to participate in this. This is our most important advocacy and visible opportunity of the year, and it's very important for us to have your participation, whether you're attending it because you're interested, or you want to meet people, or you're speaking on a panel, or you're supporting it over here. I mean, I do want to thank them. I want to say that you should fly on a Boeing plane with United Airlines or Vietjet, and Baker McKenzie can help you start a business, or if you're angry at any companies, maybe they'll help you sue them. And if you do start a business and you're successful, KKR might buy you, and we're counting on AES to help keep the lights on here. And if you want to learn more about any companies, you can go on Google and get that information. And it's just so important that they do that. And I should say, the way that you can give AmCham money is we take Visa and MasterCard. So it's very important for us, otherwise we can't do these things. I want to invite people to join us at lunch and hopefully meet some new people. It is right down the hallway out here in the main restaurant. It's relaxed, it's a buffet. You can sit with the people that you want. We have people there that give you the little ticket. So it's kind of taken care of. And I hope you do take the opportunity to meet new people here, since this is what it's about. Finally, just thanks to the people that came here from wherever it is that you're based to participate in this summit. And I want to thank our two partners, Mr. Ving from VCCI, who we always enjoy working with, John from the U.S. Chamber. The organizations partner on this every year and do stuff throughout the year. A lot of that must be that time's up.